Sorry I'm not there today, but I do want to go through these notes because this is your last set of notes before we have a test, okay? So this is the last topic that we're going to be covering before we have our test at the end of the week. What we're going over today is line of best fit, so I do want you to go ahead and write this as the title of your notes, please. All right. So, this next slide, and before you complain, I know it's long. This is the longest one of the entire slide, Joe. So, but you do need to write it down. I'm setting me a little timer over here. I'm just going to pause for about 3 minutes to give you time to write down all 4 points, and then we'll talk about them, all right? So, go ahead and write those in your notes now, please. All right, guys. So I'm going to start going over this. You can continue writing if you need to. If you're not even close to being done, then you might want to go ahead and pause the video before I start explaining. Finish writing it down, and then once you're through writing, go ahead and unpause it. So what we're going over today is the line of best fit. It's also called a trend line, okay? A line of best fit is a line that represents the data on a scatter plot, okay? So we talked about how we had scatter plots and how they're crazy dots, but we noticed that they had patterns. So we talked about positive, talked about negative, and no correlation. So these lines are going to go through the middle of those points, and they're going to give us kind of a a baseline to go for. We use these to make predictions, all right? Because when you have these scatter plots, they only go so far. We can put a trend line through the middle of them to see what the exact pattern is. It gives us an exact number to go off of. Now, the most important thing I can say is this third point right here. It says the line may pass through some of the points, none of the points, or all of the points, okay? So the trend line goes through the middle of the data. But with these scatter plots being as crazy as they are, sometimes it hits all the points if it's this perfect little line, or sometimes it may hit only one of them or two of them, all right? So again, we will be using these to make predictions, all right? And that's the 8th grade thing. Saying they're positive or negative or no correlation, that's a 7th grade scatter plot question. In 8th grade, they have you use the trend line to make predictions. That's the 8th grade version, all right? So I'm going to fill these in, but I'm just warning you now that my pen that I'm using is not the greatest. I left my good one at the school. I didn't know I could be there today. So just bear with me when I write this really, really slow. All right. So the first thing it says is blank trend line to make blank. We are going to draw trend lines. Like I said, this is not my best pen. Draw trend lines to make predictions. Okay. All right. So again, it looks like a kindergartner wrote this, but we got it down. So that says draw trend lines to make predictions. And if you can't tell how to spell predictions, it's at the top of the slide. All right. And then it says when drawing the blank. So we're going to say when drawing the trend line. Oh, that's a little bit better. Oh, I spoke too soon, guys. Okay. When drawing the trend line, remember half and half. And what I mean by half and half is you want half the dots on top and half the dots on bottom. And another way you'll hear me refer to it is 50-50. So you want like half the dots on top, half the dots on bottom, or 50-50. So either way, when we draw these, we want it half and half again. Sometimes it'll hit all of them. Sometimes it'll hit none of them, or maybe even one or two. That's okay, as long as half the dots are on top and half the dots are on bottom. And again, I know this is kind of weird and awkward, but it will make sense when we start looking at some. And last one, we are going to, first of all, read and check the labels of the axis. It's kind of weird that I say read and check. And what I mean by that is we're going to read the labels. So is it talking about temperature? Is it talking about gallons of water? Is it talking about days of the week? What is it talking about? And then when I say check, I mean check the numbers, okay? Is it counting by ones? Is it counting by tens, hundreds, thousands? What is it counting by? Because when we're looking at these trend lines, sometimes they'll ask for like an equation. And we know when we're doing those equations and we try and find the slope or whatever, we have to know what it's counting by. Same way with the predictions. We're looking at these predictions. We need to know what they're counting by so we can be as accurate as possible. All right, so I'm going to give you just a second to finish writing this down before we move on. All right, so for this next part, we are going to look at some trend lines. And I had all of these printed out for you, and you actually got colored copies this time. Aren't y'all looking? So if you do not have a copy at this point of the notes, we'll go ahead and pause it and make sure you have that in front of you, because I actually printed these off so you don't have to draw them. All right, so on this slide, we're not actually going to have to do anything. All I want you to do is look at it. There's a couple things that we're going to look at on this, because this is like the perfect trend line, okay? Also known as the line of best fit, but sorry guys. If you look at this, what I was talking about is sometimes it hits all the points, sometimes it hits none of the points. If we look out of all of these points right here, it actually only hits in two spots. It hits right here and it hits right here. So out of all of those dots, it only hits in two spaces. But is it in the middle? So if I go ahead and count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so if you think about it, we have 8 on top, 8 on bottom. Is that 50-50? Yes. All right. So this is my line of best fit. Later on, what we'll need to do is we may need to write an equation for this line, all right? And we're not there yet, but we may need to be, okay, later on. But if that's the case, then we can use this pattern. We use this line right here to tell where it would be way up here, okay, to make those predictions for later on in the future. All right, let's look at a couple others. So we're going to start off easy, where they have the trend line drawn for you, all right? Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But we're going to do this one first because it does have the trend line drawn for us. It says, how much would you expect to make in sales if it is 21 degrees outside? So first of all, you need to look and see, which axis are we looking at? Are we looking at the x-axis or the y-axis? All right. So if we're looking for temperature, we are looking at the which axis? The x-axis, right? All right, so it says if we want to make 21 degrees, how much sales if it is 21 degrees outside? So first thing I need to do is find 21 degrees. Well, I noticed that there's not a 21 degrees exactly. I noticed that there's a 20 and there's a 22. So no, 21 would be exactly in the middle. So I need to go up from right in the middle, so right about here. I'm going to go up, up, up till it hits. And it hits right here. All right. So that is where it hits the trend line. Now I need to go over to my sales to see how much sales I can make. So for me, it's actually easier if I catch the one closest to it. So I'm going to look at this. Okay, so I know it's really close to this line right here. So if I follow this line, I hit 500. And I know it's a little bit under that 500. So I'm going to say about 475, 480. So I'm going to say $480. Now, is that exact? No, because I'm guessing. I know it's under 4, or it's under 500. It's way closer to 500 than it is 400. And so I want to put something that says an about or an approximately. So I'm going to actually draw a little squiggly equal sign, and that means approximately. A squiggly equal sign means approximately that much. All right, so a lot of times, and you'll see in front of these when I'm writing them down, I'm going to do that squiggly equals because this is not an exact thing. Okay, there's not little lines for me to see, oh, it crosses exactly right there. Okay, it doesn't. It crosses a little bit under it, so I'm guessing about 480. It could be 475. Heck, it could be 482. We don't know exactly, so we're just going to put about that. All right, make sure you have this written down. All right, so all my basketball players, here we have some stats. We are looking at points scored and minutes played. It makes sense that the longer you play, the more likely you are to get points. And I would hazard a guess that this is maybe a team as a whole. I'm not exactly sure, but it would kind of make more sense than one player alone has 22 points, but you never know. It may be a very high scoring basketball game. All right, so it says, how much would you expect to score after 40 minutes? So since it's saying 40 minutes, are we looking at the x-axis or the y-axis? Which one has the minutes on it? That's going to be our what? Our x-axis, all right? And so 40 minutes is right here at the very, very back. So I follow him up. And lucky me, it hits exactly at this corner right here. So I can follow it over. And that is what? 28 points. Now, is a trend line exact? No. So we're still doing the squiggly equal sign. So I'm going to say about 28 points. All right. Because again, a trend line isn't perfect. As you see, some of the dots go above the line, some of the dots go below the line. That's okay. It's still 50-50. All right. Any questions about this? This is just reading a graph like you've done in 7th and 6th grade. Okay, we should be doing pretty good right here. All right, so let's look at the next one. All right, so this one I have distance in miles and time in minutes. And it says, how far could you travel in 45 minutes? All right. So which axis am I looking at? The x-axis or the y-axis? For the 45 minutes. Good. This one switched it up. We are actually looking at the y-axis, and that's kind of a crappy y, but y'all are going to forgive me, okay? So we're looking at the time here on the y-axis. So it said 45 minutes. I know that's going to be halfway in between 40 and 50. So that's right here. And so I'm going to follow this line over until it hits. And I kind of, again, y'all lucked out on this one. Oh, I need to not use green. Y'all don't like green. You can't see green. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to black. So it hits perfectly at that corner. So I'm going to go down, down, down. And it hits halfway in between 4 and 5. So what is that going to be? What's halfway between 4 and 5? All right, about 4.5. And what's the thing here? Miles. Oh, and my equal sign disappeared. There you go. About 4.5 miles. Okay, so you're just reading a graph on these. They've already drawn the trend line. Then all you're doing is reading the graph. All right, so now we're going to go to somewhere you need to draw the line. All right, so I can't remember if this was an old STAR question or an old unit test question that I pulled it from. But this was a test question 1 year. So it's the total number of students with January birthdays. All right, and it says, based on this information, which is the best prediction of the total number of students with January birthdays in the 12 homerooms of Stephen's school? So if I look at this, we're looking at 12 homerooms. And here's my homerooms. 12 is all the way down here. And do the dots go that far? Do they go all the way to here? No. Okay, so this is where my trend line is going to come into play. I actually have to draw my own trend line. And y'all are looking out because this is the easy one to start with because they're mostly in a perfect line already, right? So let's look at this. We're going to make our own. I'm going to start down here at the bottom. And I want to go through the middle of the dots. All right. And I'm going to put it about right there. Now, you need to use the straight edge of your ID. Okay, if you don't have an ID, use the edge of like your note, like a note card, or the edge of your journal, whatever. But use that to make a straight line as possible. Now, I used a line tool, and the good part is because on Star, you will have a line tool. So you can actually start the line way down here at the bottom, and you're going to pull it through as needed, just like I did. All right. But on our test that we have coming up, the Edugents does not have a line tool. All right. You'll just have to use so you'll need to grab your ID and kind of line it up on the screen. That's why we're practicing today with some ones on the computer so you can practice using your ID. Okay. But for on your paper, use the edge of your ID and a pencil. But on today's assignment, you'll just need to get your ID and kind of line it up on there. All right. So, did I hit the majority of the dots? Yes, actually, I think I hit all of them. I just hit the very edge of this corner one over here. The rest of them, I think I got all the way. But it says at 12. So, that's where it hit. It hit right here in this pink, okay? So, it hit the pink line right here, just a tiny bit below this line. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to follow that line. Yep. Follow it over to see where it hits. It hits at 28. Now, did it hit exactly on that line? No, it hit just a tiny bit under it. So, which one hits just a tiny bit under 28? All right. That is 27. Now, was that too bad? It shouldn't have been, all right? So, the biggest thing is going to be kind of getting used to drawing those trend lines, but we're going to do several examples together, all right? And if you're still having problems when I get back, then I'll be more than happy to help you with this. If you're still having problems and I'm not back yet, then you can always go to Mr. Smith next door or Miss Arrington 2 doors down in tutorials. They're super helpful, and they know that I'm out, so they'll be more than happy to help you. All right, so let's look at this one. It says, about how many points did the opponent score in game 16? So I have basketball opponents, I have points scored, and the game number. Well, the question is asking me for game 16. So again, this is where I like to use my highlighter. We're looking at game 16. And so I know 16 is right here. So I'm going to follow that line up. Okay, does my dots hit there yet? No. So this is where the trend line comes into play. All right. And I know I want it to be 50-50. There's no way it's going to hit all the dots. Okay. So just get that out of your head. It's not like the last one. You can't hit all the dots. But I want to hit somewhere in the middle. Okay. So I'm going to go, let's see. Okay. That looks goodish to me. Let's see. Well, that's a little bit high. Let's try going down some. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 on top. Okay, I'm just going to let it go. That's close. I might could have done it a little bit higher. But if I count them, I have 1, 2, 3 on bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 on top. So I'm going to follow it along. And it hits right here. So if I go over, back to points scored, it's hitting a little bit above this line, which is 30. So I want a little bit above 30. Well, it's not near 40, so I'm going to say maybe about 32. Does that sound like a good guess? You might have picked 31, 33. Both of those are okay. That's why I use my about or approximately. So we're thinking about 32 points. All right, about 32 points. Okay. Hopefully this is making sense. And again, if anytime I'm going too fast, I'm kind of trying to judge it on my side. I normally use y'all telling me to slow down or whatever. So if I start going too fast, remember there is a pause button. Write down what I'm doing and then just continue on. All right. So if I get going too fast, just pause me. Okay. So again, this is an old question. I can't remember if actually this was a STAR test question. This was a STAR test question several years ago. This is about how many potatoes, or about how much will potatoes cost in 2016. All right. And so we're doing the cost per pound. And it says 2016. All right. Oops. Sorry. My bad. Okay. So now we have to be careful on these. This one's actually pretty easy because it says years since 2000. So how many years is 2016 from 2016? Okay, but I have seen them when they're like 1997 or 2002. And so you have to really think about it. But 2016 is 16 years past 2000. So we're actually going to come right here. So it's the very end of our graph. So if we follow this trend line along, we want to know where is it going to hit right about here. All right. So I'm going to start right here. And I want about the middle-ish. I'm gonna go a little bit down. There we go. I think this is as close as they get. I've hit just about all of them, except for that one year that it was kind of high. And so let's look. It says I'm hitting just a tiny bit below this one, so I'm gonna go over, and that's at 72. Okay, so I hit a tiny bit below 72. Well, my options are 62, which would have been way down here. 72, which would have been exactly right there, or 82, which would have been way up here. Okay, so my closest one is going to be B, 72. All right, any questions on that one? All right. Okay, so these next ones, I want you to just breathe for a minute and let me explain it because you're going to kind of freak out on me. But they're actually easier than the trendline ones. So on this one, I'm going to read the problem and then we're going to talk about it. It says, Jamlin used the equation C equals 4S plus 20 to see how much it would cost C to make shirts S for her volleyball team. How much would it cost if she wanted to make 17 shirts? Guys, we've done these kind of problems, and this is the exact same kind of problems they're doing, except for all they did was, see this right here? This is your trend line, okay? This is when you write an equation for your trend line. But instead of doing it in graph form, they just said, we're going to give you the trend line equation, and you're going to do it, okay? So it actually makes our life so much easier. All right, so we have C equals 4S plus 20. C equals 4S plus 20. All right, so the question is, it says, how much would it cost if she wanted to make 17 shirts? Okay, so I have a 17. Do you think that's going to go in for the C or for the S? We're talking about 17 shirts. Well, it says right here, shirts are what? S. So that 17 is just going to go in for S. So really all you're doing is typing this in the calculator. So 4 times 17 shirts plus 20. And I have no clue because I don't have a calculator on me. So go ahead and type that into your calculator. I'm going to pull up my trusty phone one. So 4 parentheses 17 plus 20. Type this in your calculator. All right. I got $88. Hopefully that's what you got. All right. There's no guessing to this one. It just equals 88 because they already gave me the equation. All right. So when you have these problems, again, they look more complicated, but all you're doing is you'll either plug it in for the C or you'll plug it in for the S, whatever the problem's telling you, and solve it. All right. You will have, I think it's 4 of these questions on today's assignment. But again, to me, these are the simplest ones. All right. So let's do another one just like this. And this one's a long one. It says, Seth decided he wanted to start up his own lawn care business for the summer. He had it planned to where it will be roughly $25 in gas and supplies. He will then want to charge an additional $12 per hour for his labor. As Seth uses the equation C equals 12H plus 25, what would be the cost, C, of a yard that took 2.5 hours to complete? All right. So you're going to solve this one just like we did the other one. We have our equation, C equals 12H plus 25. So C equals 12H plus 25. All right. And it says 2.5 hours. Keyword being there is hours. Do you think that's going to go in for C, the cost, or hours H? Hopefully you said hours H just now. All right. So all we have to do is type this in the calculator as 12 times 2.5 plus 25. You type this exactly like it looks into the calculator. So type that in. Type that into your calculators, parentheses and everything. Okay. All right. So hopefully you got the same answer as me, and we got 55. All right. Was that too bad? Hopefully not. We are just plugging that into the calculator. Nothing special. All right. So I'm going to erase this one. I think that's the end of it. It is. All right. So here's what I want you to do before you just start packing up without me. All right. I want you to make a pocket in your journal. You know how you wrote those first couple pages? On the next page, I want you to make a pocket and slide these notes in here. When they're being front and back, I really don't want you to try and staple them in. Then you won't be able to read them. So make you a pocket. If you're not sure how, ask a neighbor. I know y'all do these in science all the time. So just make you a pocket and slide it down in there. Then once you are done with that, you are going to go to Canvas. And in Canvas, it's going to say Boom Cards Assignment. All right. And so that's where you're going to be today. It's, they are all questions on Trendlines. Like I said, there's about 4 with the equations. And so they're not too bad. Now, let's talk about time span. I don't know how long I'm going to be out. I'm hoping to be back soon. But so next time I see you, today's Monday, okay? It's a B day. So the next time I see you, we will do a review, and I will review everything we've gone over since we've been back from Christmas break. And then the next time I see you will be our test, all right? So if I see you Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, then Wednesday you'll have your review and Friday you'll test. If I see you every day, Then you will review on Tuesday and test on Wednesday, all right? So it just kind of depends on when I see you. The next time I see you, we'll be doing a review, and then the next time I see you, we will be doing a test, all right? So if you have any questions, you can message me through Canvas. I'm going to try and check them as much as I can. But I think that's about it. Now, remember, on our boom cards, we can do something, or we can do these over and over and over again until you get the grade that you like. So make sure you're at least getting an 80. I want at least an 80 for everybody in here. So do them again. If you didn't get the grade you liked the first time, just do them again. I will take the highest grade. So even if you dropped a little bit on your second one, I'm going to take your highest grade that you made, okay? So just keep doing it until you get at least an 80. All right, guys. I hope you all have a great day. And again, if you have any questions, just message me through Canvas. Bye, guys.